Take you straight to L.A. now. You'll see federal investigators here talking about the case against Shohei Ohtani's ex-interpreter and the money he apparently took from the baseball superstar. Let's listen in.
Criminal complaint against Ippei Mizuhara, a person who until recently was employed as a translator for professional baseball player Shohei Ohtani. The federal complaint filed just a few minutes ago charges Mizuhara with bank fraud for allegedly stealing more than $16 million from Mr. Ohtani. According to the complaint, Mr. Mizuhara stole this money largely to finance his voracious appetite for illegal sports betting. Our investigation revealed that Mizuhara, a Japanese language interpreter, began working as a translator for Mr. Ohtani when he first came to the United States to begin playing professional baseball. Mr. Mizuhara had first met Mr. Ohtani in 2013, so the two knew each other. Mr. Ohtani did not speak or understand English, while Mr. Mizuhara knew English and was familiar with the United States. As such, Mr. Mizuhara not only translated for Mr. Ohtani, but also acted as his de facto manager. Our investigation has revealed that Mr. Mizuhara, a Japanese language interpreter, began working as a translator for Mr. Ohtani when Mr. Ohtani first came to the United States to begin playing professional baseball. Mr. Mizuhara had first met Mr. Ohtani in 2013, so the two men knew each other. Mr. Ohtani did not speak or understand English, while Mr. Mizuhara knew English and was familiar with the United States. As a result, Mr. Mizuhara acted as Mr. Ohtani's de facto manager. In 2018, shortly after Mr. Ohtani arrived from Japan, Mr. Mizuhara helped Mr. Ohtani set up a bank account. That was a bank account that was used to deposit Mr. Ohtani's salary payments from professional baseball. Mr. Mizuhara had access to that bank account, and he refused to give access to Mr. Ohtani's other professional advisors, including his agent, his accountant, and his financial advisor. And he told them that Mr. Ohtani wanted to keep that account private. In 2021, Mr. Mizuhara began placing sports bets with a group of bookmakers who were linked to an illegal gambling operation. Over time, Mr. Mizuhara's bets became more and more frequent. And over time, Mr. Mizuhara's bets became larger and larger in amounts. Messages between Mr. Mizuhara and the bookmakers showed that he lost considerable money on those bets, but he continued to make the wagers, thousands of wagers over time. The bets do not appear to have been made on the sport of baseball. At the same time he started placing the bets with bookmakers, Mr. Mizuhara began using Mr. Ohtani's account to make payments for the bank account. Mr. Mizuhara had helped set up the account, so he's familiar with it, and he used that familiarity to access the account. The evidence we've gathered over the past few weeks has demonstrated that in total, Mr. Mizuhara stole over $16 million from Mr. Ohtani's account in order to pay for these illegal sports bets. Phone and bank records show that Mr. Mizuhara appears to have accessed Mr. Ohtani's bank account online. What is more, Mr. Mizuhara lied to the bank to access the account. For instance, we've obtained recordings of telephone calls in which Mizuhara spoke with bank employees, lied to them about being Mr. Ohtani, gave personal biographical information for Mr. Ohtani in order to impersonate him, and thereby convinced the bank to approve large wire transfers of large amounts of money to the bookmakers. I want to emphasize this point. Mr. Ohtani is considered a victim in this case. There is no evidence to indicate that Mr. Ohtani authorized the over $16 million of transfers from his account to the bookmakers. Mr. Ohtani has stated that he did not authorize these transfers that he did not grant Mizuhara access to his account. But on top of that, we reviewed both Mizuhara's and Mr. Ohtani's phones and their communications over time, over several years, thousands of communications reviewed by a Japanese linguist. And that review has demonstrated no discussion of betting, wagers, or authorization for transfers to bookmakers. Furthermore, there would have been no reason for Mr. Mizuhara to impersonate Mr. Ohtani in calls with the bank if these transfers had been authorized. Also, when Mr. Mizuhara would occasionally win on his sports bets, the winnings were not deposited in Mr. Ohtani's bank account, but rather in Mr. Mizuhara's personal bank account. Finally, in a text message with one of the bookmakers, which is detailed in the complaint which is available to you, Mr. Mizuhara admitted to the bookmaker to stealing from Mr. Ohtani. Let me summarize. Our investigation has revealed that due to the position of trust he occupied with Mr. Ohtani, Mr. Mizuhara had unique access to Mr. Ohtani's finances. Mr. Mizuhara used and abused that position of trust in order to take advantage of Mr. Ohtani. Mr. Mizuhara used and abused that position of trust in order to plunder Mr. Ohtani's bank account to the tune of over $16 million. And Mr. Mizuhara did all this to feed his insatiable appetite for illegal sports betting. In this way, we allege in the complaint, Mr. Mizuhara committed fraud on a massive scale. And let me note, what we filed today here is a complaint. Mr. Mizuhara is presumed to be innocent, but you can see all the allegations that we've made in the complaint that's been filed. Finally, let me offer some thanks in this case. I want to thank the amazing investigative team in this case for the work that they did. Investigators with IRS criminal investigation, investigators with Homeland Security investigations, and with our office, United States Attorney's Office for the Central District of California, worked tirelessly, worked quickly, and worked thoroughly to bring this charge against Mr. Mizuhara. I want to thank, in particular, the Assistant United States Attorneys in my office who worked on this case. That would be AUSA's Jeff Mitchell, AUSA Rachel Agress, and AUSA Dan Boyle. Let me now, before we take any Q&A, introduce to the podium IRS Special Agent in Charge Tyler Hatcher.
Good morning. Thanks, Martine. As you've heard, my name is Tyler Hatcher. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for IRS Criminal Investigation here in the Los Angeles Field Office. We often get asked, why is IRS involved in these kind of cases? And IRS Criminal Investigation Special Agents are the best in the world at following the money. And I want to give my comments to shed some light on how quickly the federal government, and in particular U.S. Attorney's Office, my office, and HSI marshaled our resources to get a resolution to a victim, and in this case, Mr. Ohtani. The criminal complaint that was filed today definitively shows that that money, the $16 million that's in question, was in fact stolen. And we want to continue IRS criminal investigations efforts in protecting sports at the highest levels. We have a long history of getting involved in cases dealing with sports at the highest levels, and this is just another great example of the federal government working together for a quick resolution. I'll turn that over to Eddie Wing.
Thanks, Tyler. Good morning, everyone. My name is Eddie Wong, and I'm the Special Agent in Charge for Homeland Security Investigations here in Los Angeles. HSI is the principal investigative arm of the Department of Homeland Security, and one of our top priorities is targeting illicit financial activities. As you just heard earlier today, a federal criminal complaint was filed alleging that Mr. Ippei Mizuhara illegally transferred billions of dollars from Mr. Ohtani's bank account for which he was not authorized to do so. These charges stem from the outstanding work of our special agents assigned to the HSI-led El Camino Real Financial Crimes Task Force, who worked collaboratively with our steadfast partners at the IRS Criminal Investigation and the U.S. Attorney's Office. In particular, I'd like to take a quick second to recognize the outstanding work done by the prosecutors on this case, Assistant U.S. Attorneys Jeff Mitchell, Dan Boyle, and Rachel Agres. Thank you for your work on this matter. Look, there is much work to be done regarding financial crime in the greater Los Angeles metropolitan area, but the El Camino Real Financial Crimes Task Force is up to the challenge, and will continue to diligently target financial crimes like this. Thank you.
I'm going to try to coordinate Q&A, so show of hands. Nobody?
Oh, get out of here.
Ozzy, don't go.
What started the investigation? What led you to look into this and find Mr. Mizuhara?
There was an ongoing federal criminal investigation into illegal gambling businesses operating not just in our district but throughout the country, and that investigation ultimately revealed this bank fraud.
As you mentioned, this was pretty fast for a federal investigation of this magnitude. What led to such a quick resolution here, and was the popularity of Shohei Ohtani and his reputation, did that factor into wanting to get this resolved?
We understood there was a significant amount of public interest in this case. There were a lot of question marks out there in terms of what had occurred. We wanted to get to those questions. I want to emphasize, though, that while we were able to work on this case rapidly, it was a very thorough investigation. You will see in the complaint review of thousands of communications, review of bank records, review of phone records, interviews that were done with several individuals related to this. So a very thorough investigation was done.
If I could ask a quick follow-up. You said earlier that you don't believe that the bets were made on baseball. How certain are you of that at this moment?
Based on the review that we have done, and it is, as I mentioned, a very thorough review, we do not believe any bets were made on baseball games. Yes.
Given all the evidence that you just laid out, what kind of penalty or punishment do you think Mr. Mizuhara could be facing? And does Mr. Ohtani have any chance of ever recouping any of that money that has been lost, stolen?
Mr. Mizuhara faces a charge of bank fraud. Bank fraud carries a statutory maximum penalty of 30 years imprisonment. But the ultimate sentence that he would receive, if convicted, would be based on a determination by the judge. The judge considers all the factors, all the background to come up with the appropriate sentence. That is for the court to decide. We will provide all the facts to make sure the court is fully informed in making that decision.
Can you talk about the degree to which Mr. Ohtani cooperated with the investigation and what that involved?
Mr. Ohtani, as I mentioned, has been established as a victim in this case. I want to be clear that Mr. Ohtani has cooperated fully and completely in this investigation. He's not only spoken to investigators, he's provided access to his digital devices, to his personal information, to ensure that justice was done in this case.
And to what degree did Ippei cooperate?
Excuse me, I didn't hear your question.
To what degree did Ippei cooperate in the investigation on Mr. Mizuhara?
Mr. Mizuhara is charged in this case. He is presumed innocent, and I'll leave it at that.
What are the next steps? Has Mizuhara already pled guilty, or what will be happening after this?
So this is the filing of a criminal complaint. Those are allegations that have been made. A criminal charge is filed. Mr. Mizuhara will now have to appear on that criminal complaint. That appearance should happen sometime in the next few days. Following that, we will prosecute the case wherever it goes. Whether Mr. Mizuhara admits his guilt or whether he decides to contest his guilt, we will follow it where the law appropriately leads us.
Okay, and a follow-up, where will he be appearing?
He will be appearing in federal district court in our district.
I'll get you the details on that. Any more? Go right here.
Will Mr. Ohtani continue to be asked to take part in the investigation?
Mr. Ohtani has cooperated, as I said, completely and fully in this investigation. We expect him to continue to cooperate fully in this investigation. We don't have specifics in terms of requests that we would have right now, but certainly over time, we expect that cooperation to continue.
We'll take two more, Steph.
Did Mr. Mizuhara say to the bookmakers, did he say he was a representative of Mr. Ohtani? Did he ever reference Mr. Ohtani in his communications with the bookmakers?
We don't have those types of facts to give to you. What I can say is Mr. Mizuhara was the lead. He was the one placing all the bets. He was the one doing all the interaction. and these bets were made on his behalf and for himself. As I mentioned, he lost over $16 million, but occasionally he would win. That money did not go to any account owned by Mr. Ohtani. That money would go to an account that was personally owned by Mr. Mizuhara.
But did he say, like, when he's placing bets, hey, I am, you know, sort of for boasting, you know, I am connected, I'm a representative of Mr. Ohtani, not placing bets for him, but sort of boasting his connection with Mr. Ohtani?
I'm not aware of that. When you have a detailed complaint, you can review it, and you'll see some of the communications there.
Matt?
On the impersonation to the bank, was that just on one occasion, and can you talk about how you got the recording, and was he speaking in English in that or in Japanese? Just walk us through how you obtained that and any further details you can share.
So in investigations of this sort, we often obtain records from every relevant party, including banks. Banks will at times have recordings of communications related to an account. We were able to obtain those recordings in this case. There was more than one recording where Mr. Mizuhara impersonates Mr. Ohtani in order to allow a large transfer to take place. Many of you, I'm sure, have experience with this in your personal lives. A transaction takes place. The bank may view that as suspicious, may reach out. In this case, when they reached out, they would get Mr. Mizuhara, who would pretend to be Mr. Ohtani, to make sure that the money went through.
Okay, last one right here.
Okay, I was just going to ask if you had any dialogue with Major League Baseball through this process.
The investigators have had dialogue with the victim in this case, Mr. Ohtani, and have had dialogue with other interested parties, and I will leave it at that.
So not with MLB Department of Investigations.
Other question? Yes?
Has Mizuhara been arrested and booked, and is David Muir facing any charges?
So as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Mizuhara is expected to make his appearance in the next coming days, and he'll make his appearance in this district.
All right, we're wrapping it up. Thank you very much. Please clear this aisle here so our participants can get out. The press release, if it hasn't been issued, will be soon. I'll be here for a few minutes. If you don't get it, come see me. We'll take care of it. We'll do Spanish language.
Wait, this is not my intro.
Please clear this aisle for the participants to get out. Thanks.
So he used and abused LA Dodgers superstar Shohei Ohtani and not only stole millions of dollars from the slugger, but used those millions of dollars to fuel his gambling addiction. That's exactly what the feds just told us as they laid out all the evidence they say they have to back their charges against Ohtani's ex-interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara. Our Alex Stone has been following this investigation from the very beginning. So, Alex, the feds laying out how they followed the money, the phone calls, the impersonations, they say, and even the payments to the bookies.
Yeah, and a couple of big headlines out of this, Kira, as they are laying it out. That one, $16 million. This is a lot bigger than it was believed it was. It was believed to have been around $4.5 million. $16 million is quite large. Not on baseball, the belief being that the betting that Ippei Mizuhara did here was on other sports. Still illegal through an illegal bookie in Las Vegas, or in the LA area, investigated out of Las Vegas, but not on baseball. Also, the notes as I'm going through the criminal complaint here that Shohei Ohtani did not know that this was going on. They say he was the victim in this, and that Ippei Mizuhara allegedly called banks impersonating Ohtani, claiming to have been Ohtani, and giving his personal details, trying to act as his voice to get money moved around, and that they say Ohtani is the victim in this. There had been a lot of questions. Was Ohtani involved? Had he been betting on baseball or other sports? Prosecutors today saying no.
All right, so let's back up a little bit, Alex, and just talk about how we got here. Mizuhara was widely known as Ohtani's best friend in the league, even managing him, not just, translating for him, but managing him, setting up his bank accounts.
Absolutely. They were best friends going back to 2018, being hired as his interpreter. They were always together when Ohtani was at the Angels, and then now at the Dodgers. They were always hand in hand together. Ippei Mizuhara was always speaking for Ohtani, and that's why there was such surprise when news came out that allegedly he was stealing money. Now, originally, he told our partners at ESPN that Ohtani had given him $4.5 million to pay off his gambling debts. And then the story changed, saying no, that he had illegally taken that out. Now we know it was apparently a lot more than $4.5 million. Now we're talking about $16 million. It was allegedly stolen out of Ohtani's account. So it's quite a bit larger than we even knew up until today. But the original story was, well, he loaned me this money, told me to use this money to pay off the accounts. Then the question was, well, was Ohtani in on this, and that Mizuhara was covering for Ohtani? Prosecutors today saying absolutely not, that Ohtani is the victim and nothing more than a victim.
That was my next question, because, you know, you follow sports and you've been following this story, and there's been a lot of chatter out there that these two were in cahoots, and that they were working together and were being very careful, of course, until they got caught. So right now, the investigators saying absolutely that's not the case, but we can't forget, as you just pointed out, there was a change in story from the very beginning to how we got here.
Absolutely, and Mizuhara had initially said that that Ohtani knew about the money and had given him the money to pay it off. Then the next day went back to our partners at ESPN and said, well, no, I took the money. But again, this being a much lower amount that they were originally talking about, not this $16 million number that allegedly went on for many, many years. So this is quite deep. $16 million going on for many years, that this allegation, bank fraud.
Well, we'll continue to follow it. Alex Stone, always great to have you.